Hello and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. I'm Marine Corps veteran and your host. My name is Travis. Oscar Mike Radio is part of the Hubazoo Network. You can find out more on hubazoo.com. I want to thank my sponsors, Joyce Asack of Asack Real Estate, Army National Guard veteran Mark Holmes of Reapers Detailing and Power Washing, and my supporters, Cason Shaving Company and Black Cat Designs. Thank you very much. And we're into year 7, folks. Year 7. By the time you see this is year 7 of Oscar Mike Radio. And I'm having a great time. And again, the theme of 2023 is there's a lot I don't know. And so I'm in the interwebs, I'm on LinkedIn, and this gentleman on my screen, Carroll Harris, Marine Corps veteran, approached me about something really impactful to not only veterans, but also to Americans in general. Carroll Harris of the Post Office, Marine Corps veteran, welcome to Oscar Mike Radio.
Hey, Travis, it's a privilege to be with you. I'm a fan of your outreach. I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to share some information on your channel and help spread the word about what the veterans can do to protect themselves, as well as what the families can do to help protect themselves, as well as just the community at large can do to help protect themselves. So grateful to be with you. It's a good morning and a great day. Every day above ground is a great day.
Hey, I haven't kicked my air addiction yet, so we're doing good. We're doing good. So, starting off, we're both Marines, Semper Fi, oorah. Tell me a little bit about your Marine Corps career before we get into your Postal Service work.
Sure. I'm very fortunate to have been raised by a 33-year sailor. I'm very proud of my father, who served in the Navy in Vietnam. He was a river rat guy. And so I heard stories growing up. I also heard stories from that were passed down from grandparents. I had grandparents who served in World War II. So I was drawn to serve. And fortunate, I met some Marines when I went to college, and I was drawn into the Marine Corps. I joined the Marine Corps, sworn in 1990. I spent 30 years in the Marine Corps. I retired as a lieutenant colonel June 1st of 2020, about 10 years active, multiple capacities. I worked on aircraft. I was communications officer with 4th MAR Div. The most notable and interesting when I'm sharing with people is I actually served as an official historian for the Marine Corps, capturing the stories of our combatants. And I wrote an official history book along with then Lieutenant Colonel, now retired Colonel Mike Visconage, for General Amos when he commanded 3rd MA. I was part of that invasion from Kuwait up to Baghdad, the mighty march that happened almost exactly 20 years ago as we stand here today. This year's been a lot of memories for me.
Yeah.
So those are the highlights from my career, but I can tell you it's really been a wonderful journey. I'm so proud to have just been a part of the military culture in general, and especially, of course, I love the Marines. The Marines are a special breed. It's a very special group. Anyone that serves is special in my heart, but the Marine Corps was just a wonderful fit for me as an individual. I like to think I have that special lack of mentality it takes to be a successful Marine.
Well, just for a second, sir, I'm sitting there one day with a couple of Army guys, and they're like, "Yeah, it's Army birthday, no big deal." I'm like, "No big deal."
Right?
He's like, we've never figured out. He's like, I've deployed with Air Force, Navy, but we've never figured out why the Marines make a big deal out of their birthday. And I think it just goes to what you said. We are different. We are just wired different than the rest of them.
I can't agree enough. It takes, and I mean, you can just look at the cultures across the different branches, and you see it in other parts of the federal government too. People don't come to the Marine Corps for the general reasons people might think, oh, I'm going to go in the military, I'm going to get an education, I'm going to get some good benefits. I mean, we draw people who they might need those things, but they could get those things with a path of less resistance or less risk or less discomfort. We draw people who purposefully say, hey, I really need a gut check. I really want to see if I can find a way to be comfortable being uncomfortable, to be the best version of myself, to push myself. I'm looking to build legacy. When I'm 90 years old and I'm in a rocking chair and I got a grandchild bouncing on my knee, I want to look back with some mental tenacity and tell them, I did something great, bigger, better, and beyond my own self. That's who we draw into the Marine Corps. Because you're not going to go take on the extra burden of cold, wet, hungry, and in harm's way unless you're willing to be a Marine. You're going to go somewhere else. So I like to think we draw some of the best people for the right reasons. And it just feels good to be around those people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny. Last week's guest is a lieutenant colonel, and you're a lieutenant colonel. And we were talking about the transition experience for officers. And I told him this. I said, Bob, all of us, E4s and belows, I got out as a terminal lance, nothing bad. It was just my MOS went away. But we always thought that when officers, especially like, the majors and above got out, that there was a red carpet for you all, and trumpets announcing your pathway into civilian life, and everything was roses. And he was very candid about the fact that your level of leadership has its own set of challenges with the transition process. Did you find any of that, or was your story different?
I know. I think I had some similar things I experienced. Obviously, if you're transitioning as an officer, you're going to have at least a bachelor's degree under your belt. So there'll probably be some opportunities there for you. But the same themes apply. It might just be a different pool through which you're operating. So when I left and I went to get more education. I knew I wanted to be a federal agent, and that's where I've been for about the past 20 years. But it took me a while to get there. There were no guarantees that I was going to get. These jobs are very competitive. So I felt the angst. I felt the risk of leaving a place I knew. The timing for me was also very unique because I left and I thought, okay, I'm done. I did about 6 years of active duty. I transitioned out. I got a job working at the Veterans Administration, helping veterans. I just love the veteran community. And I went to grad school, and I'm getting my grad degree, and I'm thinking I'm going to go be a special agent. That's what I'm going to do. And just about the time I'm finishing grad school, we kick into a war. We have 9/11. I cannot abide. I went right back into the reserves, and that slowed me up getting into being a federal agent because I deployed. I went away. I did that invasion in 2003. I was gone for a year. So I picked up being a federal agent on the back end once I got back from the war. But yeah, you do feel the angst as an officer. You do use your social connections. And I think that's something we could do better. When you think about it, when you and I went into the Marine Corps and our friends in all the branches, we come in and we spend, many of us, our first year, maybe year and a half, even 2 years in some specialties, getting acclimated on how to be in this culture and thrive and be successful. And when we get to the back end, the military, we've been shaped and molded. We don't always do a good job of reorienting to put us back into civilian society. We bring strengths with us, but some of us struggle with that transition because even though you could walk into my office right here and you could drop an oorah and I'm going to be down with the sickness and immediately be on the frequency with you, right? But if I walk into a corporate boardroom dressed like this and I start throwing out oorah, unless it's full of Marines, they're going to wonder what's wrong with me and why I'm grunting at them. So, and I've struggled with that because I do like to throw out Marine Corps culture in my life. So you have to find that transition, and we don't train to that. You've heard about TAMPs or the transition. You get a couple of days, but think about it. You spend a couple of years getting acclimated, and then on the back end, you get a couple of days and you're released to society. And some of us have been through something traumatic. Some of us have some traumatic stress. Some of us have physical injuries. Some of us have injuries that you can't see, and we're navigating that. And now think about society at large. Society at large, and my wife and I are very fortunate. We have 3 sons. Life is a challenge in and of itself. When you become a veteran, you've taken on some extra challenges. So you hear about people struggling in society, you hear about mental health, and now add on top of that the traumatic experiences some of our veterans may have gone through. You got to have some social connection, and that's where the veterans orgs, that's where your podcast can come in and help. We need that channel. We need that connectedness. So it's something. I've needed it. When I left, I worked for the Veterans Administration, and I chose the law enforcement community for the rest of my civilian life. And I have felt some of the same camaraderie, the same sense of service greater than self, the same opportunities to take risk. I'll admit it. I have a need to put myself into challenging situations. And if I have stress when I don't have stress because of what's happened to me throughout my 33 years in the government with the Marine Corps and being a special agent and being a postal inspector. I need to be stressed and I need to be challenged. So we're all navigating that. So yeah, the officers are experiencing it too. And I've seen officers who've struggled. I've seen enlisted who've struggled. I still talk to people that I served with from years ago, especially the past few months with the anniversary of the war, the memories of those of us who didn't come home, those of us who came home who were changed forever. I've seen everything under the sun, from people with highly successful lives, people who've struggled. I have friends who came home and applied a permanent solution to temporary problems. And even though they successfully navigated combat, they checked themselves out. And that bothers me. So I love to encourage the connection. I love to reach out. I want people to reach out, text, call. Don't hesitate. Let yourself be vulnerable, and don't go it alone. I've thought about that a lot the past few months just because of the anniversary of the war. And
Sure.
of course, with the veterans being targeted and scammed that I wanted to share with you today, those things have washed through me. So yeah, you've prompted some memories I didn't expect to share with you today, but they matter and they're important. They're good themes for our veteran community.
No, I really appreciate that. And you got out and you got into law enforcement. And let's now this is where, folks, I found out really quickly talking to Mr. Harris, Carroll, how much I didn't know. Like, I knew the Postal Service might have some security, but an entire law enforcement arm. So now I'm like totally like the radar is locked in. Let's go. Tell me about that. I did not know that security was I should have known, but I just didn't think about it because I see my mail carrier say, "Hey, how's it going?" Or I ship a package, "Hey, how's it going, Bob?" And we all, that's what I do. I get my stamps and I go home.
Yeah.
But explain to us the law enforcement side of the Postal Service, and then we'll get into, the initiative that you're behind right now.
Sure. So the Postal Service it's woven into the fabric of our society and our community. There's around 320 million Americans. Now, with that comes I think it's approaching 162 million delivery points within the US. So imagine billions and billions of dollars in national, international commerce, the connectedness of our society. Your free will as expressed through communications and commerce now even more so. Everything think about the physical delivery of goods. Think about the pandemic. There's a lot to protect there. They need the protection of law enforcement. There are the numbers vary, but it's around 600,000 employees working through the Postal Service, hitting all these millions of delivery points, over 30,000 facilities across the nation with the millions and millions of pieces of mail every day, and of course, billions in commerce. So this matters. As so goes American communications and commerce, so goes the success of America. So we're woven into that. We're everywhere every day. Imagine any event of significance across the US, anything. And the Postal Service is either there, we're headed into it, or we just left it. Drop a pin on the map and you name it.
Well, I'm just thinking, Carroll, about Christmas and Mother's Day, the two biggest card days of the card industry. What would happen if those cards didn't get going? There would be pandemonium. Literally. I'm not trying to be glib here, but that's the truth.
It matters. Those expressions of goodwill matter. It matters for, think about APUs or FPUs, the Army Post Office, the fleet postal units with the Navy and the Marine Corps. Those messages, those care packages, they matter. They mattered to me in combat in 2003. I know they mattered to the other Marines that I've served with and soldiers. And yeah, that stuff absolutely matters. But it's not only that. Imagine your medicine that's going, if you need medicine, you need it at the right place at the right time, and we deliver that. So because of the importance of this network, also imagine your identity information, right? People target all of this commerce. They target the electronic version, they target the physical manifestation of your intent. And the Postal Service is the physical manifestation of what you want to happen in this world. You hit the button on Amazon, you want something brought to you. We do a lot of those deliveries. You name the vendor, even outside of that, we're bringing physical goods to your door. We're moving paper, we're moving identity tag, we're moving financial instruments, we're moving all sorts of things. So it's a lot to protect. So most people don't know it. July 26th of 1775, Second Continental Congress created the Postal Service. So we literally predate the nation as far as being woven into the fabric. Benjamin Franklin, first Postmaster General. It doesn't take him but a few weeks to realize, hey, I need some regulators. We got to protect this commerce. August 7th of 1775, Benjamin Franklin appoints the first federal agent postal inspector. His name's William Goddard. Since then, we've been riding for the brand. Back then, it was a flesh and blood horse we rode. Now it's a steel horse we ride, but we're riding. And I can tell you out here in LA and California, the folks out here, we're busy. It's a beautiful thing to see all the enforcement they're doing. And we've had a heck of a week just this week with things they've had to respond to. There's all sorts of things that people don't realize that happen out there. And some of them are the dark underside of society, right? There are criminals out there doing bad things. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to provide a consequence for them, and that's what we're doing. Now, we're going to help the criminals out of those dark corners, right? We'll do that through our enforcement. If they can't help themselves, we'll help put a stop to it. We'll protect them from themselves, and we'll protect the victims they're targeting, and we'll seek to make the victims whole. So the types of things that happen, fraud, scam, schemes, which is happening in the veteran community that I wanted to share with you today, but they also do general things. Sometimes they attack the letter carriers. We've had robberies, assaults, bombs, burglaries, general mail thefts, even homicides on occasion happen. So when those things happen, we orient on that and solve it.
Yeah, just one thing I want to bring up. I mean, do you have anything to do with dog bites? It's my understanding, that letter carriers are the most attacked group by dogs in this country. I don't know if that is in your area of operation, but there's a real security risk for some of these letter carriers when an animal comes up to them. I was just a thought I wanted to kind of expand on briefly.
So, yeah, we encourage the public to make sure that their dog is chained, kept away, because the letter carrier is at risk, right? The letter carrier literally everywhere, every day. We hit all those millions of delivery points. So those things do happen. It doesn't involve the federal agents and the postal inspectors unless it rises to the level of a escalated interaction where maybe there's violence between the customer and the employee. Then that could involve us. But generally speaking, most of the letter carriers are usually pretty good at dealing with the people and letting them know, hey, can you please keep your pet back? They'll put a letter there and let them know, hey, I can't deliver here until the dog's locked up. It's a risk for me. Carriers do get bit. And the Postal Service does messaging to put out the word to let the public know, hey, we love your pet. Please, we love our carriers too. Please keep your pet locked up. We don't want the carriers to be hurt, and we want to give you your mail and get you your deliveries. So that's an ongoing communication that the Postal Service does. Not so much involved with us from a law enforcement perspective, though.
So yeah, it was just a curious point I've always had in the back of my mind because I read about it, in the Boston Post Office. Hey, this is how many letter carriers get attacked every year by dogs. I'm like, oh my God, I go to work and the train slows down. I get upset. I can't imagine going to work and getting bit by an animal. But at the federal level, this is what we're talking about. You had a very interesting initiative or ongoing thing that you wanted to share around security for people in mail scams or mail fraud. Now, how does that all work, and what's the goal that you're trying to do here?
Thank you for that prompt. So a few years ago, we started an initiative called Operation Protect Veterans. For hundreds of years, the postal inspectors have worked fraud, scams, and schemes that target the public at large. What we saw a few years ago were some specialized variations of the general scams and schemes that you see across society, tailored to the veteran community. So we partnered with AARP, and we partner with all the federal law enforcement agencies constantly because there's over 200 different statutes we enforce. So we work with everybody. when I first became an agent, I was a DEA agent. I did case with the postal inspectors, and I fell in love with their mission set for all the other pieces, and I had to become a postal inspector. So here I am. But with that said, we wanted to get the word out to the veteran community. And having been in the Marine Corps for 30 years, it's been a passion play for me to be a spokesperson for it. So here's what we learned. The first surveys showed that the veterans were, back then when we surveyed, twice as likely to fall prey to the scams. Now, more recent surveys done by AARP have found that the number has dropped to is 40% more likely. So that's a good trend that we've seen over the past few years, but we're still seeing them targeted. We've worked with both AARP and FTC to follow the stats and the trends, and we've done lots of messaging. And that's part of my effort here today, is to make sure that we get the messaging out. We believe that forewarned is forearmed. So we want you to know, because by taking some time and spreading the word to let the veteran community and their families know that they're being targeted, we believe that they're going to be better able to not fall prey to the trick, scams, and schemes. So those are the trends we saw. What I'd like to do, if it's all right, and I'd like to just highlight a couple of these specific scams.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, where are the scams? How can we protect ourselves? So please, absolutely.
Okay, so first one I'll talk to you about, and a lot of these I've experienced myself, Travis. I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't experienced them.
Okay.
There are many VA loan scams. So I've received these letters. They'll come right through the mail, and they're going to offer you some sort of ridiculous good deal on a VA loan, and they're going to want to charge you fees up front. So you rate, and veterans rate use of the VA without having to pay extra fees and percentages and things like that. But people know veterans want to use their benefits, and the scammers also know that for some of us, navigating the Veterans Administration system, because it's a legal process, there's lots of branches and sequels, and there's some complications in this. It's not necessarily simple or easy. So if you're not a legal mind, it can be a challenge for you. So they prey on that. So they offer these VA loans, and they trick the veterans into paying fees they don't need to pay. The other thing they'll do when they approach these veterans is, besides trying to extract money out of them, they want to extract their identity information. So it may not even be a legitimate, they may not even have a loan program. It could be just as simple as, hey, I know if I can get a hold of these people, they're going to give up identifying information that I can then
PII, personal identifying information. Okay.
Yes, they target the PII. So that's one of the very, they approach you. I know you need a loan. I get you to give up your PII, and then I'm off and I'm selling that on the dark web, or I'm using it to open lines of credit myself, or any variation of identity theft, international epidemic. People need to monitor their identities and protect them. And with that, I love to share this with people, because a lot of people don't think about it. You can monitor your credit lines through the major credit reporting agencies. There are 3 different ones that are out there, and you're allowed to get a free credit report from them every year, no charge. You can do that. So if you space that out every 4 months, you're getting multiple reports every year, and you're minimizing your risk. There's also agencies where you can pay and they'll monitor your credit, but you can do it for free if you need to. Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax will all monitor and send you free credit reports, so you can know if someone's opened up a line of credit or if you've been exposed. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So a lot of the veterans don't realize that, or just people in general in society don't realize it. But knowing that veterans are being targeted at a higher rate, I love to share that piece. So that's one thing, your VA loan scam. Another thing that's going on, and I've used the Veteran Administration for care. I've received care in VA hospitals where I've had surgeries done, things of that nature. And I've got a little education. I got a couple of master's degrees. I got a bachelor's degree. I've been around the block, and I'm thinking and I'm engaged. Navigating the processes isn't easy for me. So I'm empathetic to the young corporal who hasn't been through a bunch of education like I have, that needs the care, and they're trying to navigate all the legal processes. The VA's full of good people, and they're trying to help, but it's not easy on either end. So what happens there is sometimes they can trick. The scammers approach a veteran, they say, let me update your file for you. I'm going to update your file. It's a service I do, but you got to pay me a fee. and they suck money or, again, personal identifying information out of a veteran to get their file updated, because they know that there's a lot of us that need the care. We're trying to navigate these massive systems. The VA will update your file without any charges. You can interact directly with the VA. You don't have to pay somebody for that. But that's working, and the veterans are losing money. And it infuriates me. So I don't want that to happen. That's why I'm here. I want to spread the word. Have you heard about that one, Travis?
Yeah, I hear about that one. I get calls, emails. Hey, XYZ company said if I pay them $500, they're going to get me, 3% more. And for a lot of veterans, anybody really, a 3% increase on your disability rating or going from 70 to 100 is life changing. So they get sucked in. I'm sitting there thinking about this, and you served in the Marine Corps, you swore the oath. What's it do to you and your team when you start getting wind of these scams? Does it fuel your desire to go after and make sure those consequences stick?
It does. It does. And we follow the law and the highest moral standards and ethics. I really do feel like when we get a hold of a criminal conspiracy and we go to identify the nodes, dismantle it, and give them their day in court, I feel like we're helping not only the victims, because we're going to do everything we can to seize assets and give the funds back to the victims. I think we're helping the criminals. Some people just can't help themselves. They can't see straight. Maybe they came from a bad environment. Maybe they're just evil and they need some correction through enforcement. Whatever their story is, I think we're helping them. So that's how I view it. I think that's how many in law enforcement view it. When we go out there and we work and it's not easy. There's nothing, it's much easier to do crime than it is to stop it and enforce it. Because we have to follow a code of ethics. We have to follow the law. The criminals don't have to follow anything. So we're helping them. We will get them. They can't correct themselves. We'll correct them. We'll give them a consequence. Maybe they get put away for 5, 10. We've had 20+ year sentences depending on the gravity of the crimes. And when they come out, they can have a good life. And in some cases, the criminals get it. Sometimes they get it immediately when you arrest them. They're like, I'm glad you stopped me. I couldn't stop myself. It's a relief to be arrested. We've had them tell us that. Sometimes they're angry at us and it takes 10 years. Sometimes their family is immediately grateful that we've enforced the law on them because the family knows and the family can't get them to stop. And the victims are always grateful. The most painful cases for us are where the criminals burn through all the funds they took from the victims, and that does happen quite a bit, and we can't get the funds and make the victims whole again. I've looked people in the eye that have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars and have no ability to recover, and the money's gone, and I can't recover it. It's been spent away by the criminals. That's
Carroll, what is that like? Doing your due diligence, making the case, looking at the evidence, and having to tell the victim, I got nothing. There's nothing I can do for you, but we caught the guy. That's can't be a good day. I know I'm not trying to guess here, but that can't be the best part of the day.
It's an unfortunate reality that I'm hardened to it because it is a reality for us. The criminals are good at layering and hiding funds. Sometimes we can get them back and make people whole. Sometimes we can't. Oftentimes we can't. Oftentimes the way the scams and the schemes work, the amounts are nominal that they take from each victim. So say it's 500, 600, 700 from you or me, but they multiply that by thousands of veterans or just the population in general. It's harder to navigate and get those funds returned. So, but it doesn't mean there's not a value in it because we stop further harm. And even when we can't get the financial restitution back, which is just as often as it is not the case, because if we can't get funds, we can't give them back. It does provide some relief for the victims of the crimes to know that there was a consequence delivered to the criminal. And in many cases, and this is what I really admire about some of the victims, they've come forward and they've made public statements for us to use as part of our messaging, like I'm sharing with you today. They've admitted, hey, here's where I caught, and they've helped us do public service announcements. Or I even had someone come testify in front of the Senate Aging Committee with me because we were talking about veteran scams. This person had been victimized, and they came and they admitted the story. It takes some bravery to do that. So some of them have turned what they've experienced into an opportunity to stand up and be a battle buddy for the other veterans that they know are being targeted. So I've seen positive come from it, but it is something that is a little painful, which is my motivation to share with you, to share with others, to stand on the hill and scream, don't be a victim. You may be targeted, but you don't have to be a victim. Be a battle buddy, stand up for yourself and stand for others.
Are there any other scams that veterans need to watch out for, Americans in general?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple other that are pretty prevalent. Sometimes they use the approach of there's a secret veteran benefit scam. So imagine you're vulnerable, you're hurting. You want to believe something that might not be, sounds too good to be true, but you want to believe it, right? So they'll use that as an approach. Another approach is a pension poaching scam where they'll offer, look, you're going to rate X amount of money from the Veterans Administration. I'm going to buy that out from you, but I'm going to give you a hunk of money right now. And it's a legal maneuver, but they're being manipulative. And if you're younger and experienced and you don't have financial wherewithal and you don't have a good person to consult with, you can fall for that legal maneuver and sign away your income stream, if that makes sense. Because you're thinking, I want 10 grand now. I don't care that it's worth 50 grand over X amount of years. I'm willing to give it up for the 10 grand now. Our younger folks with less experience with finance need a good consultant. So I refer to that as a battle buddy, right? And the term I like to use is pause, breathe, and connect. If you get approached by a scammer and they're going to apply time pressure to you, here's how they do it. Immediately when you told me you were a Marine, I felt an endearment. It broke down a barrier for me with you. And that works just pretty much in general in the military community because we have this affinity of service. We have this combined shared experience and value set that removes barriers. So the scammers use that. They break down the barrier, and then they try to work the scam. So you need a battle buddy to watch out for you as a third-party resource. Don't fall pressure to the time that they're going to put on you. Hey, you got to do this now, or maybe you'll lose your chance to get the 10 grand or whatever their scam is. So I call it pause, breathe, connect. When you get the time pressure, and as my middle son would call his spidey senses go off, right? Your spidey senses are going off. Pause, take a breath, connect with a battle buddy not involved in what you're being approached about. Call Travis, call Carroll, call whoever your battle buddy is, and get a gut check on it. Because if it's legit, you're not going to have a time pressure issue like that. And that's why you need to do the pause, breathe, connect, and use a battle buddy. So that's my advice when they're getting approached. The other scams and schemes that I'll highlight for you that are, I think, worthy of note, aid and attendance scam. Aid and attendance is a benefit that you can rate depending on your financial status through the Veterans Administration. And many veterans need this aid and attendance. It's a valuable benefit. Some people, because there are income thresholds,
right,
are on the edge of not getting it. So scammers will come in and they'll say, put your money in a trust. And they'll encourage the veteran to actually do something illegal to manipulate the system by waving the carrot of, hey, you'll get this income stream. But what they're doing is they're convincing the veteran to do something that's immoral and illegal. And they might cloak it in language where the veteran doesn't get it, or sometimes the veteran does get it, but they're being tempted. So they're encouraging the temptation. But then they take your money, they put it into the trust, and you don't get the money. They take your money, or they take your personally identifying information. And they did that using aid and attendance as the carrot. And if you're qualifying for aid and attendance, you might be hurting. You may not have good assets in your life. So there's that. And just plain old phishing. You've heard about the email phishing. You get the texts and the phone calls. They'll put a veteran spin on it. Instead of just, you've heard of the IRS. I'm sure you got IRS text messages and emails, phone calls. They'll just put a veteran spin on it. They'll say, I'm calling from the VFW, or you name the veteran organization. So, because that breaks down barriers. If I get a call from the Marine Corps League, I'm going to want to take the call. So they cloak themselves like that. The worst for me is the fake charities. Because my wife and I have given to lots of charities. I went, my wife in the Marine Corps, we're both Marines. So we love the Marines and we love the military, and we want to help people that need help. So we've given to lots of charities, and we've volunteered at the charities. Sometimes the scammers create the fake charities, and they make it sound a little bit like the real charity, and they one-off it, and they solicit. So here's what we can do to protect ourselves for that. You can check with CharityWatch.org. You can also check with Better Business Bureau. You can check with the Federal Trade Commission. AARP has all sorts of great resources. I didn't realize until recently, I'm in my 50s now, that you qualify to be an AARP when you're 50.
Oh, wow.
So, but they're just such a wonderful organization. They have all these great fraud prevention materials. The other thing that AARP does well is with their Fraud Watch network. Many of the people that are there, if you call them, they were scammed themselves. And because they were scammed, they've decided, I'm going to volunteer with this network. And when people call in, I'm going to help them navigate it. They help you recover, financial level set, get back on track. Or if you're being approached, maybe you don't have a battle buddy. You can call them. They'll be your battle buddy. The other resource is, of course, the postal inspectors. We've been at it since 1775, working fraud, scams, schemes, and swindles. So our website, uspis.gov, is rich in prevention materials, and it has a special page for our Veterans Operation Protect Veterans campaign with PSAs in both English and Spanish, and lots of the prevention themes and explanations that I've explained to you here. So people can feed themselves this information from any of these websites or government entities. The other way we can help ourselves is with social media. AARP, FTC, and of course the postal inspectors have rich social media that will put out these prevention messages. For the postal inspectors, we're using Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and the videos that we're posting are on YouTube. And they're really helpful. They actually just won awards for the holiday season. As you can imagine, you talked about Mother's Day. Imagine from October to December with the holiday season, well, billions in commerce. So we put out a messaging campaign on how to protect your mail, your communications and commerce through the Postal Service. And they won awards for it. They're really doing a good job with the messaging. So it's not just enforcement. Yes, fate with a badge and a gun will show up. We will deliver enforcement consequence, but we would like to prevent a crime if we can do that. So let's just prevent the crimes where we can.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, it seems to me from listening to you, Carroll, that prevention, the ounce of prevention is better than the pound of cure in this case.
Yes, sir, it is. But the reality is we can't stop crime. But for those who are willing, taking a moment, you giving me a chance to share a couple of things, literally, Travis, you're taking this message and sharing it, you just prevented crime. Someone's going to get this message. And if it doesn't prevent them from becoming a victim, they're going to be inspired. They're going to be educated, informed, and inspired to take it to someone they know that's being targeted. Maybe their grandfather's a veteran. And you know what happens when we age? Our ability to detect deception, it fades for some of us. Or if you've been through a traumatic stress, if you have PTSD, or maybe you've had a brain injury, any of these things that happen to the veterans, even at the younger ages, our ability to detect deception can be diminished. So we need friends aware of the scams and schemes to help us and be our battle buddies. So that's where I encourage the general populace, reach out, watch out for the veterans, and the older Americans, the grandparents that you know.
So that was kind of the next thing I wanted to cover is, let's just say, I'm a member of my Marine Corps League and, a couple other veterans organizations, and there's guys who are 20, 30, 40 years older than me. What should I or another veteran or even another American do if they think, they're getting targeted or one of their family members is getting targeted? What's a good step action table of action we can take?
That's a great question. And so much of it will depend on the individual and your relationship with the individual. Some people are very approachable, and some you've got to really think about the timing and the tact and the manner in which you approach them if you want to have a positive outcome from the interaction. So I like to think I'm open and that people can approach me at any given time. But if you ask my kids when I come home at 8 o'clock at night and I'm tired, if that's a good time to approach to ask about something, they're going to tell you, yeah, you don't ask Dad something at 8 o'clock at night when he just walked in because he's tired and irritable by then. So that's a common sense thing, but it does matter. If the veteran themselves isn't approachable, if you do know people in their network that have a good relationship with them, you can approach them to try to figure out, hey, can we have a conversation? I want to make sure that they're not getting taken advantage of. So this happens all the time across the nation at the counters in the Postal Service facilities where our clerks will see someone come in, and oftentimes it's older Americans who have maybe lost the ability to detect deception. They've been deceived into doing something, and they're buying money orders and sending them overseas or sending them somewhere. And the clerk has known the person for a long period of time. They know their commerce patterns, and they see, hey, why are you? So our clerks literally save a lot of the people from being victimized when they approach the counter line, because they know them and they care. And I mean, that's not something that they see all the time, but it does happen. So I'm proud of what the clerks do when they say, hey, Mr. Smith, Ms. Jones, why are you doing this? I'm worried about you. I'm just concerned. And that's a risk for the clerks in some cases, because that's a delicate conversation. Some of them, they've known the people for a while and they can prevent it. And you can see the same thing in the Marine Corps League, the American Legion. Hey, why is Carroll sending all of his money to Europe all of a sudden in money orders, and he can't come to the next meeting, or things of that nature? So it's something to watch out for, especially as we age. That social connectivity really matters to give you a protective envelope. So I quiz my family members and parents about the scams and schemes I see, to say, hey, if someone approached you with this, what would you? And so far, everyone in my circle is passing when I ask them the questions.
So let's just say I get that envelope tomorrow saying, hey, Travis, we're going to take and magically wave a wand and do this. Just send me, $4.99. What should I do? Should I go to my local police department? Should I go to the Postal Service? Should I call my senator? Should I blast on social media, or just throw it in the trash? That's where, or all the above.
You can do all the above. You can report if the mail scams and schemes that we work those. So you can report those to us at uspis.gov. There are mechanisms to report scams and schemes in us. The FTC also ingests information. If it's not involving the mail, your local police may be a good place to report. There's multiple law enforcement agencies depending on what it is. Also, but as you said, putting on social media and saying, hey, I got this, it's a scam, watch out. I would encourage that too. There's no harm in that. If you have you obviously have a powerful voice, and you've been running a successful podcast for years now. If you said something, when you put out information, you're preventing a crime. So I would encourage people to do that as well.
It almost feels like, Carroll, to go back to my childhood a little bit, but this is, in all seriousness, I lived in a wooded area growing up, and we got the Smokey the Bear, only you can prevent forest fires. It almost seems like that, where this message is about you, the person, preventing this crime from happening, not only for yourself, but also for those people you care about. And I think this is the most powerful aspect of it is, yeah, I'm out of the Marine Corps, but I'm still serving in a way.
Absolutely. And, the studies have shown that people don't, we have to advise people that the scammers are targeting us, right? But people don't like being told that they're being targeted. But what people do like doing? They like standing up for others. And that's strong in the veteran community. So one of the ways when you talk about, hey, how do I approach somebody if I think they're being scammed or schemed, is you can approach them and say, hey, you can protect others. This is a scam or scheme that's happening. I believe that you might be being targeted now. Let's protect you. And oh, by the way, pass the ammo, because we're going to protect some others too. We're going to be a battle buddy for someone else. And that's what AARP has done with this Fraud Watch Network. People that get approached, they turn them around and they say, all right, armor up. You're now in the fight. Let's go protect some others. So it is a beautiful sentiment to turn something negative into a positive and spread the word. And the numbers, when I told you about the studies, it appears that we've had an impact, because at first the studies were showing a higher rate. It looks like maybe we've brought it down a little bit, despite the fact that the veterans, when you come in and you say you're a Marine, my guard's going to go down a little bit. The criminals are still going to try to work it, but I think we've had a positive impact through communicating with folks like yourself.
Awesome. So, for folks out there, what's the name of the program and how can they connect with it? I just want to make sure I put that in the Oscar Mike Radio show post, please, Carroll.
Absolutely. It's called Operation Protect Veterans. They can connect with it and see all the information, get the PSAs, follow us on social media. They go to uspis.gov/veterans. They'll see all the information. They can see the Senate testimony hearings. They can see the public service announcements. They can follow the social media, and they'll be ready to protect themselves and to go forward and continue serving and protect others.
I really like this aspect of continuing to serve. I mean, because the old thing is, I swore to defend the Constitution, but I never revoked that oath. And I think you're right. I mean, there's some older veterans up here in my area, and there's a crew of people that make sure that they're fed and taken care of and advocated for. And we love that. We want them to take care of our own. As we kind of wind this down, one of the things that kind of came to me is, do you ever think we'll get to a place where, or you will, that you've seen every scam out there, or is there somebody out there right now trying to think of a way to game the system in a way that's never been done before?
Yeah, no, so this is a dance. The music's playing and we'll continue to dance. Sometimes it's old wine in a new bottle, but the scams and schemes and the variations and the beat won't stop. So that's okay. We've got dancing shoes and we're down with the boogie. So we'll stay on the dance floor as long as there's breath in our lungs. There will be a fight in us to help protect the veterans and help stop the crimes. But this won't ever stop. We just try to minimize the impact and protect those we can. I'm reminded of a story. When I was a kid, sitting on a wooden pew in a Methodist church in Portsmouth, Virginia with my grandmother, I heard the story about the starfish washed up on the beach. Do you know this one, Travis?
No, I don't know this one, but do tell. I'm piqued.
I'll make it brief for you.
No problem.
So, big storm comes, thousands of starfish wash up onto the shore, and they're baking in the sun, and they're going to die because the water's receded. There's a young man down there, and he's picking them up one at a time, and he's throwing them back into the ocean to save them. An old man sees the young man and thinks to himself, this is pointless. Can't possibly have the impact. He walks down, he talks to the young man, and says, what are you doing? You're not making a difference. There's thousands of these. You can't save them all. The young man looks at the old man with steely resolve, picks up another starfish, throws it into the ocean, and says, I made a difference for that one. I think that's what we do in law enforcement. There are thousands of starfish on the shore, but we're going to pick up one. I'm picking up one today with you. You're helping me pick up one today. And every time this podcast is viewed, we're picking up another starfish. We're going to help people. We will not relent. We will not quit. We can help people. We may not get to everyone, but we can have an impact where we are, and we can do it now with what we have. Like Theodore Roosevelt used to say, do what you can with what you have where you are and do it now. So that's what we're going to do. I hope you like this.
This is the aspect that I love about, doing these kinds of stories and conversations is it's all about that one person and people making difference in one person's life over and over and over again. And the funny thing is, I know you've had to have heard all the punchlines about the Postal Service, but this is really, a different perspective of the fact that you all want to protect the Americans you serve. It's just a really, different kind of story. So I want to thank you for coming on and sharing with me, Carroll.
Oh, it was my pleasure. The Postal Service has over 100,000 veterans. So we can't help but stand up. The Postal Service is I think we're the second largest employer of veterans. We're full of veterans. People leave the military, they want to continue their service. I'm just one of tens of thousands of them. So there are good people here. We want to serve. And not everybody gets it. People certainly don't understand the law enforcement aspect that we do, but that's okay. We're humble agents of virtue. Our reward is from helping the people. I don't need the public to necessarily get it. We'll put the word out, but I'm really proud to be associated with this organization. It adds value. We give people what they need. We help protect people. I am grateful that I had the chance to be here, and I'm grateful you gave me a chance to come out and share some of these messages for the public.
I've learned a whole lot, Carroll. It's just, super cool to be around in the Marine in this, forum and talk like this. I've learned a lot, and I hope you all have learned a lot too. I'll have the links in the Oscar Mike Radio show post. Take action. Let's protect our own one at a time. Well, we're going to do this again, hopefully. If you have something else coming up, I'd definitely love to have you back on. I've learned a whole lot. And any closing words, Carroll, you want to impart with us?
No, I just want to encourage people to follow us on social media, check out the website, stand up for yourself, and more importantly, stand up for those to your left and your right. Each one can help one. We can make a better future. We can stop crime. We can protect each other. You can continue to serve.
Well, Carroll is definitely Oscar Mike. We're Oscar Mike, and as we say in Oscar Mike Radio, as we shut things down, we are Mission Flight. Carroll, thank you very much. We'll have you on again soon.
Thank you.
Join us on National Wreaths Across America Day, December 16th, 2023. Each December on National Wreaths Across America Day, our mission to remember, honor, and teach is carried out by coordinating wreath-laying ceremonies at Arlington National Cemetery, as well as more than 3,700 additional locations in all 50 states, at sea and abroad. Join us by sponsoring a veteran's wreath at a cemetery near you, volunteering, or donating to a local sponsor group.
Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action and the mission is in flight. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 998 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis Line.